Good morning, everybody. Monty here. This is probably going to be one of my final videos. The computer I'm on that I use is completely just gone gunny bags. It's crazy. My sister's going to try and have it fixed by calling Dell and having them go through their programs and check out the computer themselves online. I don't think that, however, is the problem, but that's neither here nor there for right now. What I want to talk about is the convergence of prophecy. We have a clear line from the Bible of prophecy. And for the Gentile and for the Jew, the rebirth of Israel is the starting clock. The Bible clearly says in many places the fig tree is Israel. Matthew 24. Those who see the rebirth, the rebudding of the fig tree, Israel, will be the same generation to see the second advent of Christ. That generation is now 65 years old. Every day that we wake up, we're one day closer. The passage of time in this construct goes forwards. So every day we wake up, it does not move one day back. We are closer now than ever before. The time period, the time clock, is Matthew 24. Those that see the rebirth of Israel, which you will also find in Valley of the Bones and Ezekiel 37. There are numerous prophecies about Israel becoming a nation again in one day. Just as prophesied, that has happened. And now from seeing that time clock, we now see at 65 years, Isaiah 17, Isaiah 19, right now on the verge. Isaiah 17, Isaiah 19 turn into Psalm 83. We see the Muslim, all the countries around Israel, now basically under control of the Islamic Brotherhood. We know what's coming. Israel knows what's coming. The United States has turned its back on Israel. They're now actively trying to deal with Iran. Say, okay, you can be a nuclear state. We know what's coming. Now, the reason why I call this a convergence is because God, through His book, His Bible, and over 2,000 prophecies, of which 2/3 are already fulfilled, if more so, more likely. That being the case, we know that Satan's line of prophecy that he's giving through the occult, through the channelers, is running concurrent because he knows that this is the end time. He doesn't know the day or the hour, but he knows his time is coming, where he's going to be put on this earth permanently. He's going to have to be here. He won't be able to have access to heaven during 7-year tribulation. So what do we see him saying? Well, if you look at Major Ed Dames, a remote viewer that worked for the government for decades, yes, worked for the government. They employed him to do things, and his group of people. He now is a private citizen doing contract work through remote viewing with a whole team of remote viewers. They've accurately predicted some stunning events. The Fukushima breakdown after the 8.9 earthquake. And what they see coming is called the kill shot. A solar eruption, massive solar eruption coming from the sun, striking Earth. Now, well, from what I understand, when they're doing this remote viewing, which is nothing more than channeling, and it's of Satan, let's be clear about this. What they say is they don't have the parallax to judge distance. So how they see that event in the future, and then they look for events that happen before it. And as they use those events as the stepping stone to get to that event. Well, They're talking about the comet Ison. They're talking about governments. North Korea is going to strike South Korea with a nuclear weapon. That's one of the things that happens before the kill shot. And all of his stuff that these remote viewers are seeing are just horrific events. And they're painting the picture, just like the Bible does, of massive upheaval, millions and billions dying. But with them and their line of prophecy, Major Ed Dames has said, don't worry about it. The aliens will come to help us. And as you all know, people like me have been talking about this for at least 6 years now. They are now actually actively, whether they know it or not, serving Satan and his policies, his prophecies, which he's not really actually giving prophecy. He's going off the time frame of the Bible up here, and then he's just mimicking what he sees according to the timeline that's set by the Bible and not by him. Now, Major Ed Dames also says about remote viewing that the last election, presidential election we had, is the last one. Now, this is where you can look at the secular world, which we know is run by Satan, and God uses Satan as his tool, just as he will use the Antichrist. And we see our government in this country now completely paralyzed. And this is the chance that Obama has been waiting for. He was brought into this situation by God for this purpose. Our government is shut down. The people see and know the politics behind this, completely dissatisfied with the government. He knows that through this, the Democrats will probably lose just about everything in the next presidential election. This Obamacare, if you've been reading the reports like I have, paying for the health insurance triples and quadruples. He lied all out. It's not going to make anything cheaper at all. It's going to devastate this country. When you consider the fact that through this, a lot of employers are now taking people to 29 hours a week, because anything over 30 hours, health insurance has to be given. So not only do we have more people working, but they're working, it's not more people working. We have people now working 29 hours at one spot and 29 hours at another to try to make ends meet. And we have a lot of people just working the 29 hours. So how can they possibly afford a quadrupling of health insurance that they're going to have to pay for? The only way you can do that is if you get rid of dental. You get rid of, you strip it down so much that it's no longer an effective health coverage. They know this. The government website for signing this up is a sham. There's nothing behind it. It's just a front page looking thing. And if you don't pay, they're going to fine you. At first, those fines will probably be small, but what's going to happen eventually? In other words, what I'm saying is this system that's being put in place is not going to function. It's going to collapse. Now, him knowing this, he's going to have to somehow declare martial law. And this is part of the situation that's going to be used. Because like I've told you about Ed Dames and Satan's line of prophecies following God's, the destruction that comes has been said, both by the Bible, both by line of Satan's prophecies. This is the time frame it's going to happen. So all these people have to do is wait for a cataclysmic event. And according to Ed Dames and the line of prophecies, the Bible, the scriptures, and Satan mimicking, they're just waiting for that event. That's why they've opened all these FEMA camps. They're preparing for this massive destruction that's going to happen to this country. They will usurp authority through this shutdown and through the natural disaster coming. And it may not happen right now, but it's close. It's very close. These things happening right now in this point in history is not coincidence. I've yelled and screamed from the rooftops the rapture to people. And if you're not paying attention to what the Bible's saying, if you're not paying attention to the alternative media, how many of you know that a snowstorm so severe hit South Dakota that 75,000+ cows were killed? How many of you heard anything about that? Do you understand what that's going to do to beef prices? Let alone on top of what they did with taking feed corn, turning it into bioethyl corn, biofuels, causing the food prices to rise. They almost had riots in Mexico over this, causing the cost to feed the cattle to rise. And now 75,000+ in one state were killed with one snowstorm? Do you think this is going to be the only event of that magnitude? No. Do you think you're even going to hear about it on the ABC News channels? No. So we have a whole subcurrent of underreported news that shows exactly where we are at. Unfortunately, many people don't pay attention to those subcurrents. Because I tell you right now, I can see with my eyes clearly. I can hear clearly the sounds coming from this world. I know what's coming. Just like every one of you do, my brothers and sisters. And I hope every atheist out there watches this video if the rapture happens. I hope they're on this video watching this knowing we told you. We really tried to tell you. There's only one way to be saved from this growing, vast destruction coming to this planet. And that's through faith upon the Jesus Christ of the Scriptures. Romans chapter 10, verses 9 to 10. 1 Corinthians 15, verses 1 through 4. That's the only way to be saved. That's the only way you're going to escape this. That's Revelation 3:10. There's another one, I think it's... I don't remember now the other spot. I don't even know if I'm going to get this video loaded because that computer's running so badly. Probably not now. You know, Satan knows what I'm doing. He knows that maybe if just one person pays attention to this, hears the warning and becomes a believer, hears the gospel and becomes a believer by looking at prophecies being fulfilled, then I will have done my job. Even if no one believes, I will still have done my job. I have been faithful to it. I'm getting the word out there. I'm not quitting until I'm either dead or removed by the rapture. Alright, well, just so you know, the convergence of prophecies is happening. And there's something else I forgot to tell you about, which most of you know about, but the last Pope prophecies. Again, these are satanically inspired prophecies that mimic very closely the biblical prophecies, but then in that truth there are spots that are lies. And it takes, 1% of an apple that's cyanide to kill you. So while 99% of that apple is good, true food, 1% is pure raw poison and kills you. This is the last pope. This is most likely going to be the false prophet. He is already starting to turn that church towards the worldly. And I shouldn't call them a church because they're not a church of Christ. Their Jesus is so immute, so with such little power that he can't even keep a person out of purgatory. No, you have to go there and pay for your sins. When Jesus Christ paid for them all on the cross once for all. All the cults are going to be left behind to see what's going to happen. And they're going to have to, come to that decision. Either to stay with believing, becoming believers, because most of these people that will be involved with these cults, once this rapture happens and the 7-year tribulation starts, they're going to be faced with the decision. Okay, now this whole religious system I've been following, it's all crap. I'm not going to follow it no more. Will it so turn them off by being lied to for so many years that they won't even look for God anymore, and then when the Antichrist shows up, they just fall to their knees before him? Or will many millions come out of those systems and become real believers. I think it's going to be both. I think many millions will come out of the systems and many billions will reject Jesus, the real Jesus, and go to the Antichrist. And sadly, that's just the truth. The Bible declares it so. Narrow is the path that leads to the gate. Broad is the path that leads to destruction. And here we are. News events like 75,000 cows in this country dying with one snowstorm. You don't hear nothing about it. You might catch something on Facebook or the alternative media. Here we are, Satan's prophecies lining up with God's prophecies. No one talks about it. No one talks about the convergence. We have the Pope, the Catholic Church, coming out and saying they're going to welcome the Space Brothers. That's a satanic line. That's a satanic line of prophecy right there. You go back to Genesis chapter 6, verses 1 and 2, and you read that and realize that those sons of God are fallen angels. And then you go read Matthew 24, verse 37, where it says, like in the days of Noah, are going to happen again, and realize those Space Brothers are not aliens. They are fallen angels. Well, there's nothing more I can really say. That's another reason why I probably won't make videos anymore. If people cannot see right now what's going on, then they're blind for a reason. Alright, thank you. Bye.